All right, everybody, welcome to the Pitch Out. Once again, it's me, Dan Siegel, alongside Nik Jarvinen, and we're here to talk about everything going on in the world of MLB. Well, we still can, apparently, because at the rate we're going, the work stoppage will be coming real soon. But until then, we've got baseball, and we are under a month now from pitchers and catchers reporting, Nick. It's an exciting time.
Oh yeah. I'm going to Arizona next month to see some of the camps, so it'll be exciting.
All right, so let's start off with probably the biggest story that baseball's had in the past few years, and it's about somebody who's not even going to play baseball, and that is Heisman Trophy winner Kyler Murray. It's a slippery situation, so let's try and break it down. Kyler Murray was drafted by the A's 9th overall in the MLB draft. He was given roughly a little under $5 million bonus to sign. But one of the contingencies when he signed was that he was allowed to go back to Oklahoma to play his final season. As we all know, he won the Heisman Trophy, Oklahoma went to the playoff, yada, yada, yada. So now, Kyler Murray has been left with the decision about whether or not to declare for the NFL draft. Scott Boras is his agent. So they supposedly sat down with A's representation. That discussion, depending on who you want to believe and what you want to believe, led to them asking for more money. One report was in the range of $15 million, which I don't know if Kyler Murray realizes what organization he was drafted by, but that's just not what the A's do. So yesterday, Kyler Murray announced that he is indeed declaring for the NFL draft, which, unless you are very naive or something drastically happens between now and April, dashes any hope of Kyler Murray ever playing baseball. Let me start with this. How do you feel about the whole situation?
Personally, I'm a baseball fan, so I would like him to play baseball. I mean, the thing is that, like, on social media, Twitter, there's been a lot of people saying, "Oh, this is more proof that baseball is dying." But there's guys who did go pro in baseball when they could have went in either sport. There's Joe Mauer was like a prime example, but more recently, like Jeff Samardzija was a really good wide receiver for the Fighting Irish. He went pro, and he said he doesn't regret it. Personally, if I were Kyler Murray, I guess I'd put my personal interests aside and do baseball just because it's safer with all the stuff we're learning about football. Like, don't get me wrong, I enjoy football, not just as much as the next guy. I love Madden. Football happens during the baseball offseason. It's like my second sport. I enjoy watching the Lions, which is silly, but on my Sundays during the off season. So I get where he likes the sport and stuff. And yeah, I mean, his rookie contract for football is going to be higher than probably baseball. But I think he was a pretty safe bet to get to the MLB and probably play the outfield for them. So I think in the end he's passing up a lot of money and personal safety because we know how dangerous it is to play football for a living. And they're making improvements to tackling and stuff, but you're never going to really get rid of that whole CTE aspect of football. It's a lot riskier for him, I think, in the long run. I guess short term it's the good gain for him, and if it's what he wants to do, that's good for him. But monetarily and just safety wise, I definitely would have went baseball. And that's just taking my bias out of it. Of course, bias, like, I want him to play baseball because I think he would have been a very exciting player. He was a top 10 pick, and even Bo Jackson didn't go first round in both sports, so he's got some really special athleticism to him, and he could be a very special player in either sport. Another thing is, this is a baseball show, but not to be a football scout, but he is a little bit smaller. I know it worked out for Russell Wilson, but that's a lot more riskier. In baseball, you can be a 5'11", if that's what he's listed at. You could be a 5'11" center fielder, no one blinks. In football, it's going to be a little tougher. Obviously, he'd be more of a Russell Wilson type, quarterback scrambler type deal, so he might run the ball a little more. But I just think baseball would have been the safer route. And then, of course, with the bias, I would have loved to watch him play. But, in the end, it's his decision, so I can't sit here and criticize him because it's his life, his decision. But I am disappointed just from the whole aspect of it. it's only natural as a diehard baseball fan, I think, to be disappointed.
All right. Well, first off, as far as social media and saying that this is another sign of baseball's, well, you said death. I'm not going to go that far, but yeah, that's what I said. That's exactly what I said on Twitter yesterday. It's exactly what I said, because you bring up Samardzija, you bring up Mauer. Neither of them were quarterbacks, and neither of them were thought of as, top tier talents in their draft class. Like Samardzija was a back end first round, maybe, second round guy. He wasn't like, the top wide receiver in that class, and Mauer, whatever. Kyler Murray is really banking on, if this was next year, Kyler Murray might not be making this decision because he's not going to beat out the likes of, Tua and a, and a Lawrence or whoever else is coming.
Lawrence is 2 years, but
Greer is who I'm talking about. Is who I was thinking of. Again, not to be a football show.
Yeah,
I'll do that in an hour. But my point is that when you have these elite talents that can play multiple sports, and we've seen it more so with guys that play basketball and go to football, and that's even a little closer as far as money wise and eyeball wise. But I mean, look at all the great basketball players that have gone to the NFL and become great tight ends: Tony Gonzalez, Antonio Gates, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
If you have an elite talent that is good in two sports, baseball is never chosen. Never. Not anymore. You could say that 20, 30 years ago. You can't say it now.
Yeah. And on top of it, I think it's more romantic, I guess, in a way, to be the quarterback, the leader of the team, where, in baseball, he would have been the center fielder, probably like a leadoff man type guy, so he would have been important. But, I mean, really nothing can compare to being a quarterback. It's not like being a pitcher, catcher, a goalie, where you can, pinpoint those positions that are, kind of unique and matter on different sporting fields, or point guard or anything like that. It's its own little game, and I mean, that's how we compare, I don't think Tom Brady's the greatest of all time. I think Peyton Manning was better, but people compare the quarterbacks based on, the quarterback is the team in football, even though it's not, I mean, obviously you need a good team around you, but he's got that romantic aspect of wanting to be the quarterback and the leader of the team where, if he played another position, I think it might be a little different. And he could have pulled more of a Brian Jordan, Deion Sanders, where he could just maybe go back on Sundays and be away from the team. But obviously, as a quarterback, you cannot be away from your team for 2 months and then just come in and be like, hey, when the A's get eliminated in the ALDS or whatever, middle of October, you've missed the preseason, the training camps, and then 6 games into the regular season, you're just going to step in and expect to know and have chemistry, and know your playbook with your teammates. So it's just not even in the possibility that he could play both sports just because of the position he plays it in football. I don't think it would have been really possible just with the demands of working out and being with teams and what they demand. I mean, he couldn't leave the A's when September starts either because that's when they need him the most. So I think in today's day and age, it's harder. But with him being a quarterback, it makes it almost impossible for him to play both sports. So we knew what we were getting into with him picking one. And the A's, I mean, they got their money back, but it really sucks because for an organization like that who relies on building talent or getting amateur free agents like Cespedes, where, I guess Cespedes was an amateur, but, international guys who are young, they're not big players in free agency. That is a big deal because that is a pick that just got taken away from them, and that's a big deal for them. So it kind of sucks with the team that drafted him for baseball as well, and that's why I think they were willing to bend the rules a little bit. And add him to the 40-man roster, which is funny because the Tigers used to do that all the time. They'd draft guys who would go way over slot and then just throw them on the 40-man roster, and now that's not, it's not allowed. So
here's the thing. I hate the situation. I hate it. And
good situation for him, but nobody else.
And yeah, it's a sucky situation for the A's, like you said. I mean, they'll get the, I think it's like $4.5 million actually that he got. They'll get that money back, but they don't get, they don't get a comp pick or anything like that. But at the end of the day, here is yet again the thing that we have to remember, and something I think is not brought up enough when we discuss this. The A's created this problem. They gave him the option.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not even the option, but they basically caved in to his request to go play another year at Oklahoma.
Yeah, and they probably didn't think he was going to necessarily win the Heisman, but I mean, there's an injury. I mean, risk.
Just the option of him going back opens the doors.
Yeah, bad business decision. I mean, they were being nice, and like obviously for Kyler Murray, that's great and good for him. I mean, honestly, I can't sit here and trash him. It's his decision. His life. I would have made a different decision personally, but I mean, I don't want this to be anything against Kyler Murray because I think he's a great athlete.
No, Kyler Murray is a 19, 20-year-old kid who, depending on what day you ask him a question, will depend on what answer you get. It's plain and simple. I'm not surprised that 6 months ago he said, "Hey, I'm a baseball player. You know, I'm just here having fun."
It's smart business for him too. I mean, he kept his options open, and if he really does love football that much more than baseball, I mean, I knew people that played sports and were a lot better at sports, but liked baseball or football more than the other sports.
Well, here's the thing: it remains to be seen if it's a smart business decision.
Okay? Yeah, I mean,
because let's just spread this out a little bit. People are all over this. Kyler Murray is going to be a top 10 pick in both sports. I really find it, again, we're not trying to be a football show here, but just to give you, a counterbalance.
Well,
yeah. I'm not sold on Kyler Murray being a top 10 pick. You bring up Russell Wilson and his size. Russell Wilson looks like Shaq compared to Kyler Murray.
And Russell Wilson was not a first-round pick.
Yes.
So
I really believe Kyler Murray is going to fall into, it will be this year's Lamar Jackson, which would put him at the back end of the first round, early second round. And when you look at the contract and signing bonus that falls in line with around that time, it's going to equal out to about the same amount that he got from the A's in the signing bonus, which means the only way this works out from a financial standpoint for Kyler Murray is if he goes and he balls out and then he gets the QB contract 5-6 years down the road.
Yeah, which is exactly what he would have to do in baseball. I mean, he got that 4.5, a little over 4.5. I think it was 4.66 or something million. So, I mean, then he'd have to play on, crappy minor league wages. It should at least be minimum wage. I think that's ridiculous that it's not, but that's a different topic for a different day. But he would have, had to play and travel in cities. He probably would have started off in the Midwest League with the Snappers. And it would have taken him probably 2 to 3 years to come up to the big leagues. But, I mean, and then another 2 or 3 years to hit arbitration. But if he's doing real well at arbitration, he's already going to be making millions of dollars. And then he hits free agency around 27, 28, 29.
Ask Mookie Betts how arbitration's treating him.
Yeah. Or Lorenzo Cain, there's kind of a stigma around, center fielder, speedy guys. Because, Carl Crawford wasn't a center fielder, he was a left fielder. We saw how that contract worked. It blew up in everybody's face that, was willing to take on the contract. But the stigma around it is that center fielders might not always age bad like that. So I think the opportunity for Kyler Murray to get more money, like Lorenzo Cain type of deal that he just signed a year ago at that stage in his career, was good. And obviously the money's better. I think Jeff Samardzija, I don't remember his exact quote, but one time that he was just talking on a show, and they just asked him if he regretted not playing football, and he was basically like, hell no, like, are you kidding? I made so much. I mean, the guy is basically a number 3 starter on a good day. Number 3, number 4 is, whole career. He's had 1-2 really good all-star level seasons. But he got a $100 million contract, so.
Yeah. Really, you know how this is going to work out for Kyler Murray financially? He's going to get way more endorsements from football.
Yeah.
Because how many people... Because seriously, think about this. With MLB and their marketing, how many people get endorsements in the MLB?
It's terrible. Bryce Harper is the only one I can think of that can get endorsements, and he does that himself. I mean, if he didn't have his hair and, he's wearing the bandana and the home run derby.
I was going to say, you see Harper, we see a little bit of Rizzo and Bryant. They've got the one thing.
Harper's like he's kind of got I love Bryce Harper, but he's kind of got like that pretty boy image. Like I said, like my girlfriend, like when he's in the home run derby, she's like, oh man, with the bandana.
Yeah.
Like, girls love him. I love him because he's fun to watch. He's emotional. He's a good baseball player. But Mike Trout, he's not really. I mean, Mike Trout could market himself, and he is a fun guy. I've seen him do fun things, but he's not on a good team, and MLB can't market Mike Trout. And if you can't market Mike Trout is this generation's Ken Griffey Jr. only doesn't get hurt, and he's basically better.
Mike Trout is Ken Griffey Jr. and Willie Mays in one, and we can't market him.
Yeah,
that is a problem.
It's MLB. The problem is the Players Association MLB is too lackadaisical when it comes to that, in my opinion. I think the MLB never licenses enough products. They don't even have a game for the Xbox. Like, that's a huge... My brother's gaming over there on an Xbox right now. He has no interest in baseball.
It's some stuput thing.
They have RBI baseball. Yeah. I have a PlayStation to play the show, but MLB just can't market. That's another thing, too. I mean, it ties into this because, obviously, like I said, it's a lot more romantic to play football and be the quarterback. There's not really like that in baseball. But Kyler Murray could be like... he could be like a Bo Jackson and get the endorsements and stuff if he played baseball, but they're so bad at it right now that in football he will get the endorsements. So it could be a good fight. It shouldn't be an easy financial decision. It should be an easy financial decision for baseball because there's no salary cap. And really, I mean, you do get bigger contracts, but just the way that MLB does everything right now is just backwards.
I think to wrap this up, I think Kyler Murray looked at, in the short term of what are the next 2-3 years of my life going to look like. And he said, I can be riding buses making, little money, despite my signing bonus, making little money, a month, riding buses, sitting in crappy hotels, playing in front of 5,000 people where nobody would know where I am. Or I can go to the NFL, be a starting quarterback pretty quickly, and I'm going to get endorsements right off the bat.
Yeah, and I mean, I got the name now. I mean, he's got the name now. I mean, so as long as he doesn't fall on his face, I mean, and he seems like a really good guy from every interview. And I haven't personally met him, but he seems like a really good guy from everything I've seen and read about him. So, I mean, I don't think he's the type of guy who's going to fall flat on his face. So, ultimately, it was up to him. I think it would have been a little bit smarter to play baseball. And I would have chosen baseball, but it's his decision. But it's a big loss for baseball. I think we can agree on that.
Yeah,
so.
Baseball drops the ball yet again. All right, so let's go. We talked about Bryce Harper and Mike Trout just a minute ago. So let's go to our weekly, what is going on with Manny Machado and Bryce Harper? So let's go with Harper first, because this is the one that I have a lot more issues with concerning what's coming out and how people are reacting. So on Saturday, Bryce Harper sat down with the Phillies. They had like a 5-hour meeting, whatever, and, they walked out, and now the reports are, the Phillies are the leader for Bryce Harper.
Yep.
I don't buy that. I don't buy that for a second. It's like if somebody goes and has a meeting with Bryce Harper tomorrow, they're going to come out and they're going to be the favorite. So I'm not buying that the Phillies are the favorite. Here is the other thing. One, I don't believe the Nats are out. The Nats, I mean, even Rizzo is now starting to soften the stance of Bryce Harper's not in my plans.
I don't think the Yankees are out.
Yeah,
I think it could be that surprise team in there,
You can never rule the Yankees out. It's just, they've already got the big contract in Stanton. They've got to pay Judge. Like, are they really going to have, like, $600 million in that outfield?
They did go under the luxury tax.
I hear you. I mean, I'm not gonna. No, the team that I'm.
They have the money.
The team that I'm staring at is the Dodgers.
Yeah, and then another team nobody talks about because they don't have a lot of room that I think would be a great fit is the Cubs because he could go with his buddy.
Bryant,
and then Harper, Bryant, Rizzo, but that's not going to happen.
I was going to say Theo's thrown all kinds of cold water on that. I mean, like if he's slow playing that, he's doing a hell of a job.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's supposedly a surprise team in on Machado because we heard it's down to the Phillies and White Sox. And I think if if you're the White Sox, I think I tweeted something out on my sports account the other day where I was like, why you go 8 years on Machado.
Yeah, and I
I
tweeted back at you about this. We'll get into that in a second. I'll say because I want to argue that since we're face to face, we're going to argue that.
Yeah, but I don't see the big deal. If you're the White Sox, just get the deal done. Offer him either 8 years and an increased salary. Give him $270. It's $20 million. I mean, you're already spending $250. You got the money. Just spend the extra $20 million, which averages out to another, $2.5 million a year, not even, and then just go out and get him. Because I think the White Sox are kind of the favorites for Machado at this point, and I would say, I just think the Phillies are favorites for Harper just by default. I don't think it has anything to do with the meeting. I just think it looks more and more like the Phillies are going to end up with Harper because they have that money and they haven't really used it, and they seem like the most likely one to give Harper that deal. It's going to become like them and the Dodgers. It could be a bidding war.
Well,
which is funny. They've held out. There's like almost borderline collusion.
I'm just waiting for I don't think we're going to hear anything. I think it's just we're going to wake up one morning and we're going to hear the Dodgers are closing in on Harper. I think it's going to be just like
the
that.
Nationals, though, he has almost, I don't know, if the Nationals really offer him the best deal and he has to go back to them, wouldn't you think that would be almost a collusion case waiting to happen, especially with the bargaining agreement coming up? Because if he goes back to the Nats for way less than he thought he was going to get, and way less than even, the public thought that he was going to get. Not what he deserves, but what he thought he was going to get. It looks like there's going to be a labor strike, too, on top of
yeah, there's going to be a labor strike.
The thing. And, owners are getting a higher profit margin. And as a fan, I would be a little bit frustrated. I understand, a business, you got to make money and profit. So, I understand both perspectives. But you also got to spend, if your fans are spending, Philly fans are there, they're spending. Their sports talent. The Eagles won the Super Bowl. They need somebody, so they're willing to spend. But they're the only team out there that's just all out willing to spend right now. Besides maybe like the Yankees.
We can discuss the reasons for that a little later on. But here's the problem I have with the Phillies and this Harper thing.
Yep.
If you sign Bryce Harper right now, does that make you the clear-cut favorite in the NL East today?
Not over that. It doesn't. I think the Nationals.
All right. So here's my point. It doesn't. Okay. And the Harper move is, I think, probably similar to what they did with Arrieta last year, where they're signing Arrieta. They're signing you this year, looking more toward maybe a year or two down the road.
Yeah.
Okay. Why not take that money, get other pieces, like good pieces, like actually make that team a whole lot better as a whole instead of one piece. And then, in 2 years from now, get not only a player who's better than Harper, but a guy who wants to come to Philly.
Yeah, and Trout. Like I said, I think we discussed this the last show. It's just such a... it's just so far down the road. It's not so far down the road, like you said, it's only 2 years away, but in a way it's so far down the road, and it's not like a guaranteed thing. It looks more and more like Trout is not going to stay with the Angels because they're just doing a really crappy job at keeping him happy and building a competitive team, especially with that Pujols deal crippling them. But, I just can't. That's just too... have you ever played out of the park baseball?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's just like one of those things where, if you play this game, the GM who will watch this don't know. And, I've sat there and I've built a team up around, and one year Manny Machado was going to be the free agent. This was a couple years, so it was literally, I played a couple years into the future, into 2019 offseason, or 2018-19 offseason. And I was like, okay, I'm going to sign Machado. But then Machado went and got an extension in the middle of the year he's about to hit free agency, so my whole plan hit the wall. Then that offseason, Clayton Kershaw ended up opting out of the deal because it was this offseason. Then I ended up signing him, but I needed that offensive weapon, so I had to go out and trade for somebody. So it's kind of like that. You never quite know what's going to happen. Like I said, they might not extend him, but you might not know what the landscape looks like in 2 years. So much can change in 2 years. We've seen in the last 2 years, we've seen a franchise literally just in the boating accident change the course of the way that the Marlins were going. And that was such a crazy thing that happened. Who would have thought this player was just going to go out and pass away, So you never really know what's going to happen. I'm not saying anything that years down the road, let alone in a baseball atmosphere.
I'm just saying we've had teams here for 2 years now set themselves up for this offseason. You know, we saw all these teams last year make sure they were under the luxury tax. You know, just to reset for this offseason. So if we can have multiple teams setting up for a free agent class, then why can't one team set up for a guy who is homegrown and has no I mean, he has season tickets. He's there all the time.
To the Eagles, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the thing about it, just that, I mean, I'm not arguing with you that it's a bad idea. I totally agree with you. I mean, anybody who says they don't want Mike Trout on their teams either just doesn't like him for some reason or just dumb. But I mean, it's just, you know, they went out, they got Segura, Andrew McCutcheon in 2 years will be on the last year his deal. Jake Arrieta will be what? He'll be a free agent in 2 years, so you'll finally have Arrieta off the books. You went out and got Arrieta for nothing now. For no reason, not for nothing. You paid him $75 million.
That definitely wasn't nothing.
Yeah, I mean, you got him.
Do you know that Arrieta accounted for the most of a single team's payroll last year?
No, I didn't know that. I can believe it though.
He came in. His salary accounted for about a third of their payroll last year.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. You know, I mean, I could see your point, and they could do that, but why not? I mean, there was talk that literally just got shot down today. It's one of the most recent articles now about them signing both Machado and Harper. So if they can afford both Machado and Harper, and who's to say in a few years they couldn't sign Harper today, and then in a few years go get Trout. So I don't think signing one of them closes the deal on it either. Because if they hypothetically there was a legitimate rumor and legitimate chance that they could get both Machado and Harper in an offseason, I mean, Trout you're going to have to pay more money to, but still, my point is that I think they could afford Trout in 2 off seasons, especially with Arrieta coming off the books.
If they're going that route, they're going to have to trade off the 500 outfield prospects they have.
Them for starting pitching and relief pitching, because they've got Nola, Arrieta, and then, you know, they need bullpen help. Because who did they sign? They signed a closer, didn't they?
A closer? No, they haven't signed a closer, because I saw a report that if they don't get Harper, you know, if they miss on the big two, there's a supposed fallback plan in place, and where they would go talk. Who I wanted to talk about next was they would go after AJ Pollock and also Craig Kimbrell. Which to me, I'm sorry, Kimbrell
no, they signed David Robertson.
Oh yeah, well yeah. I don't think of Robertson as a closer though. I mean, they could use him as that.
He is right now.
Well, yeah. If the season started today, he's their closer.
Yeah.
I was saying unless they're going to go back down the Hector Neris route.
Yeah, I mean Hector Neris is a good middle relief pitcher, but I don't think he's much more than that. He had the max last year, got sent down to the minors, then he came back up and was one of the more dominant pitchers down the stretch. So but yeah, I mean, I don't know. Plus the changing role of a bullpen, it's nice to have a closer, but some teams like Milwaukee's best relief pitcher is Josh Hader. He's not their closer. I mean, their closer was kind of a carousel last year. It was like Corey Knebel, and they had different people closing. And but Hader's their best relief pitcher, so it'd be nice to have a guy like Neris who, if he really is the real deal, he can pitch, in the 6th inning when you get in this tough spot, and then have a Robertson and Kimbrell to shut the door, and maybe a Sir Anthony Dominguez for the 7th inning.
And let's talk about Pollock here for a second, because the knock on Pollock is easy. He's got injury problems every single year. Okay, he's never healthy, but when he is healthy, he's productive.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why the Mets have been linked to him, are still semi-linked to him, even though every time there's some sort of picture that Brody Van Wagen puts up, all you see on the comments is sign Bryce Harper, which good luck with that. But is Pollock merely just a victim of Bryce Harper not signing, or is the market just not there for him?
I don't know. I mean, I think it'll go down like a snowball. we saw, because we're going to talk about this, I don't know, you said DJ LeMahieu, Dozier, and who else signed? Yeah. So we had 3 second basemen sign in a matter of, 2 days? So I think it'll be a snowball effect when Harper signs, Pollock will sign. Because there's a lot of teams interested in Pollock. And the thing about Pollock is some of his injuries have been freak injuries. So, I mean, excuse me, he's got a lot of he's got a lot of potential to stay healthy, and I think he's almost being a kind of an underrated asset at this point. Because I don't think he's going to get as much as he thinks he wants, or as much as he thinks he's going to get. So I think a team will be getting him in a steal. And if the Mets get him, that would be really good. Or the Braves, I've heard, are heavy in on him. Honestly, most teams could use an AJ Pollock because there's not a lot of true center fielders left in baseball, that can play all around. I mean, like the Billy Hamiltons and Adam Engels and Juan Lagares of the world who can play really well defensively.
I was going to say, so you just gave me a group of guys that can field real well but can't hit for anything.
Yeah, so he's kind of the real deal. He can hit at the top of the order, has a little bit of power, definitely has speed, fields well, got a decent arm, just complete package type deal. So I think a lot of teams are kind of underrated.
Trust me, the Mets would love for somebody to call them today and be like, we'll take Juan Lagares and his $9.5 million.
Yeah. I mean, Lagares is a good fourth outfielder, but not at that price probably. But
no, see, the thing with the Mets is, and that's why everybody's screaming for a Pollock, or if you're crazy, a Harper, because right now you look at them, they've got Conforto and Nemo probably in the corners. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's fine. You know what Conforto is. Nemo had a nice year last year. I'm still not sure he's an everyday guy, but he deserves the right to go out there and see if he can produce again. But right now they're rolling with 4th outfielders in center field. I'm sorry, the platoon of Lagares and Keon Broxton is nice. They're going to catch a lot of balls, but they're not going to hit it all.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not buying Keon Broxton from 2 years ago where he hit 25 dingers or whatever it was. That's not happening.
Yeah, that was one of those things where you just came up and had a good month, and then it really skewed everything.
So no. As far as we touched on Machado real quickly. You brought up the White Sox thing. Here's the thing: the White Sox, you talked about, like $250 million or whatever. That's not the offer. The offer's well below that. The numbers that are out there are 8 years, $210 for Machado.
$250.
Now, I literally, before we came on, I saw it's more around $210.
Yeah, he's not going to sign for that.
And here's the thing: you talked about, you talked about what you tweeted with Pujols and the Angels contract, and how Pujols, even toward the end of that, has been, fairly productive.
It was, let's talk about Cabrera.
Oh, Miggy, that's right.
He's not, which he has the last 2 years, he has been productive due to injuries, but the thing with it is that the Tigers, if they hadn't signed Jordan Zimmerman, which is kind of a bad signing, right now they'd have a lot of payroll. They're rebuilding, but the Tigers were one of those top 5, top 10 payroll teams the last few years, and now they're obviously shedding payroll.
But here's what I tweeted at you, and I don't know if you saw it.
Yeah, I did. I was busy then.
When they did that deal with Miggy, okay, what the new thing now with contracts that's in vogue is the opt-out. I'm sure Miggy would have had an opt-out had he signed this 4 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you can sign a 10-year deal, and it gives both teams both people more leverage. I guess leverage when they need it.
So even if it's 210, okay, so let's just go with that 210 number. If it's $90 million in the first 3 years, and then there's an opt-out.
Yeah, front-loaded contract.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I mean, I would require it to be more, even, honestly. I'd say, pay me 32 or 33 this first year, then 31 and 30 or something, and then I'll go back out. Because more than likely, he'll probably opt out of that, so.
No, yeah. I was gonna say if he's got an opt-out after 3 years, that would put him at, age 30 when he comes back?
Yeah, and if it's with, Philly, I mean, they could, like you said, go out and get Trout after that second year, and then he'd have a real big decision to make because he'd play 1 year at Trout, and you get a taste of that, so it would be an interesting thing. But yeah, you're right with the opt-outs, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think Machado's worth more than 210, and I understand the business aspect of it where teams don't want to spend that, but sometimes it's okay to overspend and sign, a bad deal Like, it probably is a bad deal in the long run for those years 6 through 10. But, like, if he's going to be the face of your franchise and Machado's going to probably go into the Hall of Fame, I mean, I know it's too early to say, but, I mean, with as long as nothing no catastrophe happens, he is right up there with the all-time, he's one of the all-time greats at his age. Like, if everybody played baseball and then had to retire at age 26, he would be one of the better players of all time. He's proving that, and you could have him go in as kind of like the face of your franchise. So you're kind of paying him for more than that. You're going to have Machado jerseys for, the whole rest of the time there. So, like, that franchise face of the franchise, we don't really have that anymore. I mean, if Mike Trout's not going to stay around LA forever, then, like, we really don't have that face of the franchise thing. And we'll see that with the Cubs coming up, too, if they're going to extend Bryant or not. Because if Bryant is not the face of the Cubs franchise, then I don't know who is. Nolan Arenado is going to hit for his season. That guy is the Rocky. Yeah, I mean, Javi Baez has had one good year, though, but Chris Bryant, everything revolved around him. When he came up, they made the playoffs, and then they won the World Series. And he was the guy who
they've got the Rizzo situation.
Yeah. I'd say Bryant is the number one guy there, though. He's a fan favorite. I mean, he's a decent looking guy. He's
no,
good.
No, I'm not arguing.
Nice.
I'm not arguing that Bryant.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing out other names.
Yeah. I'm just saying,
arguing.
there's no face to the franchise. Evan Longoria, they traded him. He was the best Tampa Bay Ray of all time. Just gone. I mean, you could think Andrew McCutchen. He was the face of that franchise. Everybody there has McCutchen jerseys. Gone. I mean, he was getting older, and yeah, McCutchen is not what he once was. I mean, we see that reflected in the contract he got in free agency. But there's just no such thing as, like, a guy like Miguel Cabrera anymore. The Tigers are really one of the last teams to have that. And they even got rid of Justin Verlander, who said he wanted to spend his whole career with the Tigers. There's just not that face of the franchise guy. And yeah, I know you might be overpaying them at the back end of their contract, but if you win a world title or two out of it, then it's totally worth it.
Well, hold on. I got one face of the franchise for you.
Okay.
Kershaw.
Go ahead.
Kershaw.
And he stayed, but he could have opted out. But yeah, I mean, okay, so you got one for all the.
No, I'm just saying. Okay, there's one.
Yeah, we do have one.
I was saying, despite all the opportunities that he's had to go elsewhere.
I mean, like, Freddie Freeman's the face of the Braves, but who's to say he won't get traded at the end of his deal?
And who's to say 2 years from now he's still going to be the face of that team?
Yeah, so it's different landscape today, but I do think the aspect of having a face of the franchise is good because when Cabrera was hurt last year, Castellanos stepped up. But really, outside of Castellanos, if Castellanos had not been on this Tigers team, nobody would have known anybody when they went to the game. I mean, their best player besides Castellanos this year was Nico Goodrum. But he had a great year, and I like Nico Goodrum, and I think he has a future as a really, Ben Zobrist type piece on the Tigers.
Hey, you better like Nico Goodrum. I bought up stock in him in a lot of fantasy leagues.
Yeah. He's iffy. I want to see one more year out of him, but he seems like a good guy, and he's a nice guy and good player, and I'm rooting for him. But, I mean, nobody's going to go to the game to see Nico Goodrum, who was a minor league signing, the year before. Like, we got him on a minor league deal and invited him to spring training, the Tigers. And nobody's just going to go see that. It's just that he's not a household name. And Nick Castellanos isn't necessarily a household name, but he's at least a fan favorite. I mean, they had James McCann, who's kind of a fan favorite, but he was atrocious. They didn't even tender him a contract. I mean, when teams have to go through those rebuilds and stuff, it's good to have one guy, even if you're paying him $20 million, $30 million a year, that people at least know because it'll get butts in the seats and jersey sales and stuff, and at least you got somebody to associate with your franchise. Because Mike Ilitch did great for the Tigers, and he spent, and they should have won a World Series for him because he had the teams. There's various reasons they didn't. We could do a whole show on it, but there's just really not that. Like, nobody's like, oh, Mike Ilitch, I'm going to see Mike Ilitch's team. Or the Ilitch's team now. It's Mike's past, but you go to see Miguel Cabrera. That's going to be their main draw this year. Let's go see Miguel Cabrera. He's going to hit his 500th home run. Let's go see Miguel Cabrera. He's not as good as he used to be, but he might hit his 500th home run this year. Like, you need guys like that. So that's why I wouldn't have the issue with giving Machado the big contract. Teams can afford one bad contract for a type of player like that where it's bad the last 3-4 years. So that's my take.
Let's knock out the. We talked about the second baseman that kind of went all in a flurry here, so let's knock these out real quick. Let's start with hold on. Let me see if I remember who went first.
There was Doge. Well,
they all kind of went at the same time.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
All right.
Why don't we just start off with your guy? Because you got a lot to say about Lowry.
Oh, the Lowry thing? Okay, all right, fine. Let's start with Jed Lowry. So they signed Lowry for 2 years at $20 million. I don't have a problem with the contract. The first
it's a good contract. A little bit older, but...
Well, Lowry also, I mean, if you want to go analytics-wise, has been one of the best second basemen in baseball here over the last few years. I mean, he's out there in Oakland, so nobody pays attention. But, you know, he's a solid player. My thing was, you already had Jeff McNeil, who now apparently is going to get moved to the outfield. Okay. You got Robbie Cano at second. You got Frazier at third. Lowry doesn't play a whole... I mean, he's played like 4 games total in his career at shortstop, so he's not a backup to Rosario. I mean... You know, you know what this signing tells you? You know what the Jed Lowry signing tells you? You're not seeing Pete Alonso anytime soon. That's what it tells you.
Yeah. Yeah, at least the first month they're going to Chris Bryant him, because we were just talking about Chris Bryant, where, you know, they don't see him for the first month, so they gain another year of control.
No. I originally thought it would be the type of thing where they're going to wait for the deadline and then mid-May you'll see him. You're not going to see him unless, like, he's tearing it up. Hand. Yeah. Like they've made it.
Well, the thing is, Cano.
They've made it where he's not needed at this point.
Cano, he, you know, I don't think they trust him at second base every day, but so they'll play him a lot at first. But it'll be interesting. And then the McNeil thing you hit on. I mean, he's kind of a question mark. Like, he wasn't came up, he had results at the big league level, but how for real is it? I understand it is a depth move, but still at the same time, I mean, what are you going to... I mean, if Frazier doesn't do good, are you just going to start Lowry at third? Because if Alonso starts hitting, then you have to bring him up. So it could create a problem, but I guess it's a good problem to have, right?
Listen, I'm all for depth. It's just like, you know... I'd like to like have some holes filled in and then worry about that. Like, I still need a center fielder. You know, I'd much rather have found out that you signed a real center fielder instead of added more depth. Alright, obviously we have some sort of technical difficulties as Nick has just completely frozen on me. So, we'll wait and see if he kicks back in here. In the meantime, while we're waiting on Nick to unfreeze, there we go. Nick just confirmed that he's frozen, so we'll wait on him. So I'll carry this conversation here as a... Oh, wait. He's trying.
I'm back.
There he is. There.
My connection went out.
You know, internet isn't what it used to be. Yep. Maybe he froze again. Who knows? Usually I'm the one that has internet problems on these shows. Nick has apparently taken over that mantle for internet problems. So, anyway, while Nick works on getting unfrozen, let's move on. We did the Lowry talk, so let's talk about Dozier to the Nats here, as Nick looks like he's unfrozen here for a minute, so maybe we can get him to talk.
Yeah, sorry, a new laptop and the connection's being weird. It's not always grasping the network, so I apologize.
Oh, good. Like I said, I'm usually the one that has internet problems on these shows, so it's nice to
Yeah,
have
it was
somebody
getting
else.
wavy. So, yeah, I kept talking over you because I didn't hear you talk until 2 seconds later, so I apologize to everybody
No.
and yourself.
All right. So anyway, like I said, we finished up the Lowry thing. Like I said, great, depth move. That's all well and good. I'd
Yeah.
rather they have a starting center fielder, but it's the Mets. I can't get greedy.
Mm-hmm.
So the Nats then got Brian Dozier. This is purely a placeholder move. They've got Keyboom waiting in the wings. They don't want to put any pressure on him to come this year. So Dozier holds the spot for a year, and Keyboom can step in next year.
Mm-hmm.
As far as impact-wise, everybody's going nuts. This isn't Brian Dozier 3 years ago. I was a guy that really bought high on Dozier last year when the Twins finally moved him to LA, thinking it would be a rebirth, and nothing ever kicked in.
Yeah, the thing is, I really like the deal, so I guess I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. I think last year was a really weird time for him. He came up with Minnesota, and I see that a lot. A lot of times when a guy gets traded mid-season from the organization that they basically came up with, they tend to struggle. I noticed that a few years ago with Austin Jackson. Although his career did take a downturn after that, but I'm wondering how much is psychological, because it's baseball. It's a tough game. You go every day. I wonder how much of a psychological impact it is. I mean, he's going into a pennant race, but he had a really subpar year last year. But I like it. It's a 1 year, $9 million deal. He's a veteran presence. He's a leader. The upside of it is really, really high. I mean, I think that he could become a top 10 second baseman again this year, top 5 even if he has a really good year. His power's still there. I mean, let me tell you what. I see a lot of AL Central games. I go to a lot of games. I've been to a lot of Major League games over the past few years. Brian Dozier was one of my favorite people to watch within the division, because I obviously go to Tiger games. So I'm seeing a lot of AL Central guys. Him and Byron Buxton on the Twins, formerly. Because Dozier's obviously not there anymore. But those were two of my favorite guys to watch. He's a fun player to watch. He's good defensively, good hitter, got a little bit of speed. I think he can do wonders for the Nats. I think it's not a big pressure situation for him either, because he doesn't have to go there and be the guy. Because, he can hit 7th, 8th, and he's not in LA and Hollywood, down the stretch run. So I think if he has kind of a normal season here, he's not super old. He's never been a high batting average guy, but he takes his walks. He has the power. And at second base, you just don't see that. It's a rarity. So I really like that move. It was one of my favorite moves. I like that move and the Lowry move the best. So out of all these, those two are my favorite two.
Okay, so let's go to number 3, which apparently didn't make your like list, which is DJ LeMahieu. Which when free agency started, there was talk that DJ LeMahieu was the top of the second base class and that he would get the best contract, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, he signs with the Yankees for a couple of years and $24 million. And we talked about how does Lowry fit with the Mets. DJ LeMahieu's an even bigger head scratcher. I mean, LeMahieu is a second baseman. So.
Yeah, because hadn't they said they wanted Glaber to play second? They don't feel as comfortable with him at short.
Yeah. I mean, I know you've got Tulo at short, but there's still all kinds of question marks with Tulo. So,
it was a weird move.
It's depth, but when you're the Yankees, I don't know.
Dead money, yeah. You're speechless, it sounds like, about this move.
Because I kept trying to move the pieces around to figure out, how does this make sense? And it's like, okay, if Tulo goes down or you don't want Tulo to play every day, then you could move Torres to short and put LeMahieu there at second. Unless they're going to go, you would think that with the way Voit came on at the end of last year, they're going to
drop the rules.
They're going to give him the look at first. I don't think they're completely just going to throw Greg Bird away. So LeMahieu at first doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I keep looking for where he fits, and it's more of a fill-in. And for the guy that was supposed to be the top of the free agent class, I find it hard to believe that he went somewhere that he's a fill-in.
Yeah, well, the thing about it is offensively, he's never really impressed me. I know he did win a batting title, so that's kind of a silly thing to say. But I think that batting title was really a Colorado-dependent thing. Because if you look, his OPS outside of Colorado is below 700, so he's below average hitter outside of Colorado in his career. The Cubs gave up on him because of his hitting, and dealt him in that deal. Um, you know, great defensively, so why would you move him to short? Because that's his biggest asset is his glove, I'd say. Um, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. The other thing I can think of is, there had been rumblings they didn't necessarily think Andujar was as good as his rookie year. He's really bad defensively, and his staff may never be higher. He had a really good rookie year, and he might not have a repeat that offensive season. So maybe they move Glaber to third. Tulo's old. I wouldn't necessarily. I don't think he's a guarantee to play at this point, because he's just. I mean, he hasn't played more than 50, 60 games in any of how many years? 3, 4 years now. So he's not a guarantee. So Tulo was more like I hope this kind of works out move, and we kind of have a need with Didi going down. So we'll sign this guy because he used to be a superstar, and we're the Yankees. I understood the Tulo move. It just was kind of a low risk, high reward move. Have Tulo come in, worst comes to worst, you release him at the end of spring training. The LeMahieu move, I don't get it either. I don't get moving his position. The only way I'd get it is if they really don't trust Andujar and they're really planning on moving Torres to third and maybe trading Andujar at some point this year for something, and then LeMahieu will step in as a second baseman. But like I said, there's that offensive question mark around him. So, outside of course. So, yeah, I mean, I thought that was a weird signing all around. I think LeMahieu might be a little bit overrated, but it's not a good fit, really. So, if you can't hit home runs in Coors, he's not going to hit a lot of home runs at Yankee Stadium. So, he's not, his offensive ability declined. So,
anyway, so we had second baseman going, then we had a couple of catchers. There's some catcher movement. Before the Mets had signed Ramos to what I thought was a great deal, I had kind of banged the drum for them to, because they were always linked to Real Muto there for a while, and I'm like, forget Real Muto. Like, the Marlins aren't going to trade you Real Muto unless you give your whole life away. Like, go get Francisco Cervelli. I thought Cervelli would have been a low cost, trade and he would have fit in perfectly for what they needed and all that. So obviously they got Ramos. The Dodgers went the trade route and went with somebody they know very well and got Russell Martin.
Yeah.
And that one I'm not as high on.
Mm-hmm.
Because while Cervelli has aged well, and because Cervelli was never a really big, he was never a big power guy. Like he's just a consistent hitter, and he's solid behind the plate. That's what Cervelli is. Yeah. Martin, at one time, back in his Dodger days, right before he went to Toronto, was considered among the best offensive catchers in baseball. However, because he's a catcher, as he has aged, his offense has dipped. So much so that even in Toronto, where everybody freaking hits, Russell Martin wasn't hitting.
Yeah, I mean, the Russell Martin deal, I didn't necessarily get it. I think Austin Barnes will get most of the playing time there. I like Austin Barnes. And then the Yasmani thing, I mean, I think it would have been better off to bring Grandal back than platooning him and Barnes, even though he really let him down in the playoffs last year.
Well, then we have Grandal, and here, because I'm gonna go on a rant right now.
You're good.
Yasmani Grandal signs for 1 year and a shade over $16 million with the Brewers. Right, and he's got a mutual option for next year or whatever, but yada yada yada. So he's got his press conference or whatever, and they ask him, there were reports that you got offers elsewhere. There was the report out there the Mets offered him $460. Okay, and so why would you settle for a 1 year deal? Now, mind you, let's break this down. $460 is $15 million a year. Okay, if you just average it out. He signed for a shade over $16 million a year. His response is, I did this for the young guys, the guys that came before me, the Yachties and and whoever. They established this pay class, and if I'm the elite of the class, I need to keep the pay line in grade. I wasn't willing to take offers that would have set us back. It's $1 million! And I'm sorry, Yasmani Grandal, you were the elite of a very bad catching class. Let's calm down. Like the guys he was talking about before, like the Yachties, and I don't even remember who else he mentioned. Hold on, I gotta look it up now. I gotta see who he.
Russell Martin probably is one. He got a big deal from Toronto a few years back.
Maybe it was him. I gotta find this now, because I'm
trying to remember all the way back. Jason Kendall got a big deal. With
no. He went high. Here we go. Where is it? Let's see. Blah, blah, blah,
Yachty. Wow, Posey maybe.
Yeah, here we go. Yachty, Martin, like you said, and Brian McCann. I'm sorry. When they all got to free agency, they were all well above Yasmani Grandal, and neither of which were coming off a postseason where they couldn't catch a baseball.
Yeah, it was embarrassing. Although I do think we put a little too much weight on his postseason because in some metrics,
No, it wasn't going to hurt him, but I mean, come on. He's not in the class of those guys.
Yeah, he's been really inconsistent, too. I've one really good year, and then he'll dip. Because, I mean, he's a really low average guy, and he walks again, so he got like another Brian Dozier type player. But the thing is, when he has a bad year, it's a really bad year because he just cannot hit. So, like, everything takes a hit. His OPS, everything. It's when he just can't hit, he cannot hit. So, and that's his problem. And he had a really good year going into free agency. But, yeah, I mean, Yachty's Yachty. He's defensive lizard. Border, Hall very good, at least, in the very least.
No, Yachty's going to be in the Hall of Fame. Let's just...
He'll be in the Hall of Fame, whether, And then Buster Posey, I don't know if you mentioned him, but Posey got a big extension. I mean, he's not even on the Russell Martin, Brian McCann level, who are basically, for a time being, when Mauer was the big guy, they were like the 2 and 3 behind him.
When Brian McCann signed with the Yankees, he was 30-100 every year.
Yeah.
It was just like you could pencil him in. It was locked. He
was one of those rare catchers here right in the middle of the order.
Yeah, he was a switch hitter with power. He could throw. Like come on. Yasmani Grandal was never that. Not even on his career year was he that. So stop.
Yeah, I mean, Grandal has the power, arguably more power, but that's about where it ends. And he's got some of the skills. He's got good skills. But I think $15 million a year was pretty fair for a guy like him. Honestly, like it wasn't underpaid. It wasn't overpaid. It was like right in the neighborhood of what I would expect of him.
As a Met fan, I'm happy as hell he turned that down. You think I want to get stuck with Yasmani Grandal for 4 years?
Yeah, Wilson Ramos is definitely the better offensive guy. Defensively, Grandal does some things good. Like you said, he had a bad offseason or a bad postseason. But he has some. I think his pitch framing is really good, if I remember correctly. In the metrics, his pitch framing metrics are good, and he can handle stiff. So he's a good catcher. But like I said, $15 million is about where I draw the line with him. So
whatever. Have fun in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
So we've got 2 things left here before we wrap up. We're gonna go young, and then we're gonna go old. So let's talk about something that you like very, very much, which is the youngsters. Last year, we had the Ronald Acuñas and Juan Sotos of the world that all of a sudden came up and made the NL East something that nobody expected, which was a Braves-Nationals race there for a little bit. Then it turned into Braves-Phillies. But, so now we have to look ahead to this year. And, of course, we can't start a prospect conversation without talking about the guy who should be there on opening day but won't. Okay,
Yep.
This is Chris Bryant situation written all over again.
Yeah.
Okay, and that is Mr. Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. ESPN put out their projections yesterday for fantasy baseball. Their projections for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. this year. 25 home runs and 94 RBIs.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? It's not crazy. It might be low.
Yeah. And the WAR Steamer projections projected him in the top 10 of American League for WAR. I saw that as well, which was a little bit before the ESPN projections. But, yeah, I mean, I personally got to see Vladimir Guerrero Jr. play for a half season. He played with the Lansing Lugnuts, which are the closest professional baseball team to my house, where I'm sitting right now. They play about, the Tigers might have them beat, but they're about 60 minutes away. So I went out there quite a bit to see him and Bo Bichette. Vlad, he's got a big body. You wouldn't expect him to be really good at third, but he can hold his own. He'll never win like a Gold Glove there, but he can hold his own at third. They don't have to move him to the outfield. And then the bat, it's the 80 grade bat. I mean, I've seen some pretty amazing things at minor league games. You see, it's a lot different atmosphere, but he looked like if you would have sat like him and Bo Bichette, honestly, both. They look like if you would have sent like Josh Donaldson and Miguel Cabrera back down to Single A and made them play a half year in the Midwest League, because they were just so much above everybody. And the thing was, they were 18 and 19 at the time. I know we're not talking about Bichette right now, which we might in a minute, but Vlad himself he actually didn't have Bo outnumbered him as far as statistics go, but Vlad, you can always tell just the sound of his bat, just from a pure scouting standpoint. I watched him hit in the home run derby. Actually have like the whole video of it. It's on my personal YouTube. But the dude was amazing. I mean, it just comes off his bat different. It sounds different. He can hit to all fields with power. I mean, I don't know if you saw, did you see the MLB Network video that he did where he hit the home run off the tee?
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing. I mean, it was off a tee, which people might think takes away from the impressiveness of it, but I mean,
no, it makes it that more impressive.
Yeah. To call that shot. I mean, that guy is going to be, he's going to be Miguel Cabrera with the bat. Like, defensively and base running wise, he might not be the best. I think he'll be average, especially at his younger age right now. He's 20, he'll be 20, 21, 22 these first few years, so he'll be more nimble. He'll be one of those guys whose body type you might have to watch as they get older, because he'll gain muscle. I mean, like Miguel Cabrera, grew into a really muscular guy, but it kind of hurt him. Speed-wise and everything. But these first few years, he could be off the charts. I mean, he's never going to be like Mike Trout all around, but he's going to be the best hitter in baseball, no doubt in my mind. I've never been more sure about a prospect in my life.
And you brought up Bo, who Vlad is obviously Vlad Guerrero's kid. Bo is Dante Bichette's kid. That, like, the idea that is not the left side of the infield for the Blue Jays on opening day, I can't grasp. I mean, if anybody has not been on YouTube or watched MLB Network in the last week, go watch what Bo Bichette did in the Bahamas at that home run derby.
Yeah. I'll give you my little scouting report on Bo now. I didn't get to watch that Bahamas thing. I was really upset. I think that thing's going to be like the next big home run derby. I think they started that last year, and I think it's going to keep growing. That was fun to see the highlights. But Bo Bichette controlled cast at the plate. He has a hard swing. He swings with intent. He's got the whole body moving, but his mechanics are pretty flawless. They're not, if he's a boxer, you'd say he's, unorthodox. He's not an orthodox swing. It's like he goes back and kind of tips his bat, and then it's all the way through. Sorry, I'm swinging everything around here now. But he has a plan. He is not impatient. He's not like a guy who's going to go up there like Joey Gallo and just swing hard for the fences. He's got a plan, and he's an advanced hitter. The only thing about Bichette is I project him as a second baseman, a little bit undersized to play shortstop. I don't see him as a shortstop long-term at the major league level. I see him as a second baseman. And good news for Jays fans, I got to see Kevin Smith last year with Lansing. He's a little bit behind those guys, but he could be up in the majors. Not far behind them, and he's a really good shortstop offensively. They have a really good future infield. If Rowdy Tellez can end up working out, they have a really, really, really good future infield, like for the ages. So
the other big middle infield prospect that we're likely to see, also with some bloodlines in him, is the Padres' Fernando Tatis Jr. He's actually been surprisingly rumored in some trades here in the offseason, but the Padres are not moving Tatis. And Tatis falls right in lines with everything we just said about Guerrero and Bichette.
Yeah, and then talk about a move. A.J. Preller got rid of not only James Shields' horrible deal in that trade, he took a flyer on a international prospect, Fernando Tatis, who ended up being the number 2 prospect in baseball. So what a deal. For him, no matter how Tatis his career turns out. that's going to be one of the better deals that Preller ever makes. But Tatis, let me tell you what. I got to see him hitting the same home run derby. He was in the Midwest League with the Fort Wayne Tin Caps last year. He is not quite at the level of Vlad and Bo hitting-wise, but he's a lot more lanky, and he's got the power. He's got surprising power. You look at him, and he's like a little skinny guy like me, tall skinny guy, not a little skinny guy. He's a tall skinny guy like me, but he can really hit with some power, and he's a much more athletic, so he could be that all-around guy who really sticks at shortstop, and I think could be one of the next big shortstops. So I don't know if you got opinions on him.
No, I mean, Tatis is, I mean, it's everything that you look for when you look at a prospect. I mean, you know, everything plays on both sides of the ball. That, you know, it was funny when at the, you know, around the winter meetings when the rumor was out that the Padres were asking about Syndergaard, you know, and then it was like, well, they won't include Tatis. Then there was no conversation. Yeah. It had to start with Tatis. And I get that the Padres have a deep farm system, but, like, he's the prize, you know. So doesn't surprise me they're not going to move him. But, you know, but again, I look at a team like the, you know, similar to what I said with the Blue Jays as to why Guerrero and Bichette are not that left side of the infield on opening day. You look at the Padres, like, who are they holding? Who's holding down shortstop that's blocking Fernando Tatis Jr. right now?
It was Freddie Galvis last year who was just a placeholder.
Yeah, like, come on. Just put him out there. All right.
Yeah.
So let's go to the outfield. That's kind of, those are the big three infielders, I think, for this year. So let's go to the outfield. And the two biggest names are, we've got what everybody assumes, unless we've got a last-minute change here, is going to be the Bryce Harper replacement in Victor Robles. We saw a little bit of him last year. He came up, got his you know, first taste of the big leagues. Didn't exactly pop off the screen like his counterpart Juan Soto. And what's interesting is that if you had talked about Robles 2 years ago, people would have talked about him as the best prospect in baseball. The shine on him has come off a little bit. I mean, even before Soto came up last year, people in the organization were talking like Soto is better than Robles. So everybody still expects Robles to step in and fill the void for Harper and still expect him to be a big thing. The question is, I think now that has to be answered, is Robles still the top guy that he was 2 years ago?
Well, as far as level goes, I mean, I don't think he's changed. He got hurt last year, which was a big deal. He ended up, I saw him play in AAA in Toledo. He looked fine. He looked like he was going to come up, and, you know, he didn't have, like you said, the numbers that popped off the sheet, but he had some really impressive games, which is what you look for in your young guys. I mean, time and time again, we hear scouts say, well, you know, it's not a linear, you know, with prospects, it's not a linear thing. You can get stuck for a while, figure some stuff out, then you start to go up, then get stuck. And it's just, that's how baseball really is. So I think Robles just kind of got stuck with the injuries and stuff. And I liked what I saw at him. At bare minimum, he will really shore up the outfield defense, and he's got speed, so when he gets on base, he's the type of guy who in fantasy I'd be targeting because he can steal a lot of bases. He's not the sexy guy that Soto is, just because Soto was basically the best teenage hitter of all time last year, and Soto is just a lot better with the bat at this point. He's proven himself. So, I mean, those guys is the sexiest thing you can do. I mean, you've seen the commercial where Tom Glavine and Greg Maddux learn how to hit because chicks dig the long ball. It's always going to be the sexier thing. So Soto is probably going to always be more talked about and better. But there will be times that Robles has a higher WAR and stuff than Soto. I think he's the more all-around complete guy. But
you might want to calm down with that chicks dig the long ball reference. You're right on the age cups of people who will get that.
I think it's a funny commercial. We should bring it back.
Oh, it's a great commercial. I'm just saying, you know, you got
yeah.
You know, so you're 20-something-year-olds who don't even get that reference.
Yeah. But yeah, that's how I think about Robles. I don't know what your take is on him. I know he's probably a guy you've had in a lot of your dynasty leagues.
Oh so yeah, I've got stock in Robles, and you yeah, you know, you're not going to lose anything in the out. If Harper does not come back and he is the replacement for Harper, you're not going to lose anything in the outfield. He's got the arm, he's got the glove. You don't lose anything there. He's got speed, like you said. He'll steal bases. You know, him and Trey Turner at the top of that lineup is scary.
Adam Eaton, they've got a lot of
yeah. The the question is, and you know, it's still early. Like I said, he got a taste last year, and like you said, he had some games here and there where he popped out, but overall he struggled. And yeah, that's what you kind of expect. Not everybody's going to come up and just tear the ball off. I want to see him. Hopefully, if they don't re-sign Harper, they have Robles come into camp and they tell the kid, listen, this is your job. Don't worry about nothing. It's going to be your job. Just go out there and play. Take all the pressure off of him.
That's what he deserves. So he's worth it. He's got the talent.
Yeah, I'm not overly concerned with him. The other outfield prospect that is on everybody's radar, and again, considering the team, why he won't be there on opening day, I have no idea, is Eloy Jimenez. And for everything we just talked about with Robles and Soto and, Ronald Acuna last year, Eloy Jimenez, if he gets to play 130 games this year, he might go for all of them.
Yeah, he's the one beat of Vlad Guerrero as far as hitting goes. I mean, he's not quite an 80-grade hitter, but he's got the power. He can fit in left or right. I mean, he's going to have a really solid career. I was shocked when the Cubs traded him. Jose Quintana, great pitcher, number 2 guy. But still, they're going to look back on that and regret that deal because that was Jimenez and Dylan Cease, who was going to be a really good pitcher. But back to Jimenez, I mean, he kind of came out of nowhere. Another guy who came through the Midwest League. I've gotten pretty lucky with these Midwest, leagues the past few years.
Here, let me cut you off real quick. Let me ask you a question because obviously you've seen him in person. I've seen videos of him.
Yeah.
Is he? He doesn't appear to be as built as you would like.
Yeah. I mean, when I met him, he looks like a normal guy. Like, it's funny because a lot of these guys coming up, like, I got to see Nick Senzel and Victor Robles, and I literally met them. And I got to see them. They're just little guys. Like, you would see them walking down the street, you wouldn't think they're baseball players, but they got this athleticism that's great. But the thing is that with Eloy Jimenez, you're expecting him to be more of the slugger type, but his body is like, it's kind of like that skinny strength again. I mean, he's not like built. He's not skinny. He's kind of somewhere in between. So it might be like a sign of like worry for some people, but I wouldn't worry about it. I think he looks fine to me. I mean, there wasn't anything that was like, man, this guy's size is not good enough. He's not, like you said, he's not built, and in person, that really doesn't change. He just looks like a normal guy. Like, it's funny how many of these athletes nowadays just look like normal people. I think it has to do with more of the workout plans. Not everybody tries to pump iron and become the Iron Man now. People try to become more physically fit and healthy, and the strength, in his biceps and legs is probably what he focuses on. So, like, when you see him, he doesn't come off with, like, this, like, Miguel Cabrera type body, type vibe, but you can tell his strength. I mean, he had a damn light tower. I don't know if anybody's seen that video.
I think everybody, if you're any sort of baseball fan, you've seen that video.
And then, it didn't surprise me one bit. He kind of came, I mean, he always had the potential, but then he really broke out in South Bend. So just great, another great bat. I mean, I'm really excited. He's definitely still a top 5 prospect. I know he had some injury troubles and stuff, but he'll get 120 games in the majors this year. He's going to be one of those guys that forces their hand. So
real quickly, when we were doing the infield prospects, the one guy I didn't bring up who I would think you're going to see this year, like you didn't see him last year because he had like some injury issues and whatnot, and you brought him up, is Nick Senzel. The reason I didn't bring him up is because the Reds continue to have issues handling him.
Yeah, and it's not really his fault. He is, see, I watch the Tigers do this with Castellanos. That's what worries me, is that he's always going to be a good hitter. I mean, you can see his hitting ability. Funny story, first time I saw him, he was hitting second in their lineup. I sat in my seat, and boom, like first pitch, he just nailed the ball. It was a home run. He pulled it, and it was just like a laser, just a line drive. The dude is not going to have any issue hitting. Hitting is not the deal.
The problem is the Reds can't decide where they want to put him. Okay, he started at third, then they moved him to second. Now there's talk about him in the outfield. Like, what are you doing?
I like him at second just because he's not a big guy. Like I said, like I'm taller than him. I mean, I'm a pretty tall guy. I'm 6'3", but like I'm taller than him, and he doesn't really look like a baseball player. Like when you see him, that doesn't mean he's not a good baseball player because he's one of the top prospects. He had injury issues last year too, but you know, he's not one of those guys that's like, oh man, this guy is like, you know, you see him on the street and you're like, he's a baseball player. I mean, you could probably tell because he dresses really nice, but other than that, I mean, you can't tell the guy, you know, he doesn't look big or anything tall or like, you know, any of those stereotypes. So, I mean, I think second base is a real safe position for him. He has a handle on the infield. He's dealt with ground balls his whole life. You know, that it's kind of dangerous to move guys to the outfield, I think. And I think naturally if he's stuck at third, that's good. But Suarez really, really broke out into the third baseman we all know he could be last year. Second base, they have Scooter Gennett, and like Scooter's, I don't know what his contract's like, but I don't think he's under contract for too much longer. They could end up trading him for a pitcher they need and have Senzel come up and play second. So logistically, that makes the most sense because Peraza can play second or short, and you know India can play second, short, or third because they drafted Jonathan India. But Senzel, you know, India's more of, I think he could stay more on that left side of that infield. Whereas with Senzel, I think putting him at second would probably be the right move. But I think second or third.
They just need to leave him alone.
Yeah. Teams do that too much. We've seen it with the Jabba rules, right? I mean, that really messed up Job Chamberlain's whole career, really. So.
All right. Lastly, let's talk about pitchers that we should see this year. You can throw a couple of names out. The two that I think that are most obvious is Forrest Whitley. You know, one way or another, we're going to see him with the Astros at some point. You know, he throws over 100. You know, he got past the suspension last year. He's ready. And the other one is Jesus Luzardo with the A's. Another guy who is ready. The A's, you know, will do their usual, but by midsummer he'll be in that rotation.
Yeah, Whitley is going to be the big prize guy. With Jesus, I haven't seen him pitch in person or anything. I've just seen videos and stuff. He kind of climbed the ranks. He was originally a national who got traded. I forget what deal. It might have been the Sean Doolittle deal is what I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I can't remember he's interesting. I've never got to see him play. He kind of rose up out of like almost nowhere. Whitley's always kind of been that main guy. So I'm more confident in Whitley, especially as a right-hander. He has good mechanics, sound mechanics. I think he's the safer bet for like a rookie of the year, like who's going to come up and be better type of deal. With Jesus, I think we'll see him later in the year, and he could make an impact. He seems like a high, you know, octane type guy. So it'll be interesting to see how the A's handle him and stuff, and how he fares his rookie year. Because I think there might be a lot more. There might be some more growing pains with him.
I'm like, normally there's like a handful of arms that you know we're going to see this year, and you know this year is harder because like the Braves have a lot of arms. Like we saw Gahara last year. Like they've got Kyle Wright, who we could see this year. But I mean, you know, like I'm not sure outside of Luzardo and Whitley, like who for sure can come up and make an impact right away this year. Yeah, I mean,
the Tigers too. They have probably if you took the top 5 starting pitchers in everybody's system, they probably have the best 5 because they have Mize, Perez, Burrows, Fado, and great. Who did I say? I said Mize, Perez, Burrows, Manning. Thing is, Matt Manning had the best performance out of all of them. Casey Mize was, you know, he's kind of on that Justin Verlander, Rick Porcello route, but like you're probably not going to see those guys until September this year for the Tigers. And they have some of the top starters, prospects. I mean, I don't know. Some guys who got like a taste this year we might see. Steven Gonzalez with Minnesota.
With the Twins. Yeah, I would say he might be. I would say he might be in the rotation opening day.
Yeah. Tyler Glasnow's not really a prospect anymore, but it'll be interesting to see what they can do with the full season to him because the switch flipped and his potential is really realized in Tampa. I think that he's in a good situation now, so I'd like to see what he does. He's not really a prospect anymore. Alex Reyes, I don't know what they're going to use him as, so like it's a lot more confusing, and we might see guys who kind of got a cup of coffee in the past to really break out this year.
You bring up Alex Reyes, who was kind of forgotten because he's been hurt the last couple of years, but if you're the Cardinals, why would you not just use him and Hicks in the back end of that bullpen and just blow people away?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Because kind of similar to like Neftali Feliz. Like he was a big prospect calling up, but then like a couple things happened. They ended up just using him as a closer, and he ended up being a really good closer for about a half a decade over there. So I think that you could easily see Reyes morph into that role along with Jordan Hicks back into that bullpen. That's why I definitely started him as, and then I don't know, maybe give him a couple starts if he does really good, and you're in a position where like one of your guys goes down, like Jack Flaherty has an injury or something, then you might want to try Alex Reyes in the rotation for a few turns. But yeah, I agree with you. I'd handle him like that.
Only other big name I could think of, and this is purely health related, is maybe toward the end of the year we could see Brett Honeywell. I'll say the Tommy John pretty much wipes out any hope of seeing him for any significant stretch this year.
Yeah, I mean, and then we could see Sixto Sanchez at some point, but I think the Phillies will move slow with him.
Yeah, I don't think you want to push Sixto.
Justice Sheffield, I think he's kind of overrated. I think he got traded to. Don't get me wrong.
The stock on him has dropped so far.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. Like the minute he got traded from the Yankees, his stock like totally dropped, and it was like, well, I mean, he was always a good pitching prospect, and I always saw him as like a number 3 starter. But like with the Yankees, you would have thought he was the next coming of Andy Pettitte or something. So it was like they were really a little bit too high on him. But yeah, I mean, you're right. There's just not a lot of pitchers. I mean, there's a lot of interesting prospects. Like Mackenzie Gore is going to be really, really good. We could see Mitch Keller at some point this year. He's kind of going to be that boring pitching prospect, though. Like, he's going to be a guy who comes every 5th day and starts and does pretty well, kind of like the Garrett Cole and, guys they brought up in the past. He'll make all-star teams, but he won't be like that guy who gets a ton of attention. I mean, Soroka, like you said, I mean, there's all the Atlanta guys. I mean, Dylan Cease might get an opportunity at the end of the year, but, I mean, I'm just looking at this list. I mean, Kopech's out for the year, which is a shame because,
he came on at the end of last year. If Kopech doesn't get hurt at the end of last year, we're talking about him as a Rookie of the Year this year.
Yeah, he's going to be like that type of like Matt Harvey come up, Jose Fernandez come up and have that kind of impact, Like I feel that with him. He's just really good. He's smart. People said he was immature because he got in fights and stuff. He got in a fight when he first got drafted, and then there was the drama because he dated a reality star. There's some drama with their breakup, so people are like, "Oh no, it's going to be an off-the-field issue." But he is one of the nicest people. He sat and took a picture and talked with people after the game in Toledo. He really has a good head on his shoulders. I follow him on social media. He's always writing in a journal and stuff. He's really got it, and I think with his smarts and his ability, he can really put it together and be something really special in Chicago. I think he could be that ace type of guy who really sets that franchise, and pitching wise apart as their ace type, go-to guy. The shame in it is that he's having Tommy John, so we don't see him until September, but probably not at all this year. So,
all right. So, before we get to our final topic of the day, I have to give us some breaking news.
What's going on? I'm not on anything. I was looking at a prospect list. Somebody big sign?
No, nobody is signed, but something that we talked about earlier may be coming into fruition. I posed the question of, are the Phillies best suited signing Harper when you can take that money and sign several players?
Mm-hmm.
Phillies team executives are saying their vision is to sign Harper, Kimbrel, and Keuchel.
Yeah, I heard that Keuchel too. I was going to actually say that earlier, but we got caught in the whole bullpen thing.
Here's the thing. You get Harper, that's all well and good. You get Kimbrel, that solidifies the bat. Keuchel, I'm sorry. We had this conversation, I think, on the first show. For what they need, Keuchel's not that guy.
Yeah.
You're getting Jake Arrieta 2.0.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's a lot more of a question mark, even though they both have won Cy Youngs, and they've got, those shining prime years with them, but you're getting the downside of his slope on his career. So, I mean, it'd be a lot riskier, and I just don't think the payoff is necessarily, it's not a good look, but I can see why that's their big deal. But yeah, I mean, I would just go after Kimbrel and Harper, and then just kind of, I'd save a little bit of money. You don't have to, like, they say don't put all your eggs in one basket. Like,
why are they not going the trade route? Okay, with all the names out there, the Bumgarners and the Klubers and Okay, they need a 1A.
Yeah.
They need somebody to pair with Nola. You got to go the trade route for that.
Yeah, I don't understand. With Bumgarner, I don't even think you'd have to give up 6 though, because that's obviously their top prospect at this point. I'd say. So I mean, if they could get in trade talks with the Giants, I mean, you're talking about maybe a Adam Hazley guy, type player in there. Adam Hazley's really, really good. Ranger Suarez, he's flown under the radar. So far, the Giants, those are 2 like the bigger names I'd target. Then maybe throw in a Dylan Cousins, because like what the heck you need Dylan Cousins for? You don't need the outfielders, so give them 2 outfielders and a pitcher back for Bumgarner, and maybe like a rookie ball guy to take a shot on.
They've got outfielders for days. They've got Cousins, they've got Moniak out there, they've got Jalen Ortiz even further. I mean,
easily, yeah.
Yeah, so outfielders are the least of their problems. Yeah. All right, so that's the report that USA Today actually just put that out there as far as they're thinking. So, all right. So the last thing we're going to talk about here real quick is the Hall of Fame. The announcement for the inductions is what am I looking at here? About a week and a half, something like that. I think in the next week we're at the 15th.
Yeah, we'll probably have some reaction to it, so we can kind of do half and half here.
I think it's I could be wrong. I think it's in a week. I think it's next Monday. I might have that date wrong.
I think you're right. It's on a Monday usually, so
yeah.
I'm sure we'll have a reaction show.
Oh, trust me, I'm sure I'll have plenty of reaction when that comes out as we're about to dive into.
Yeah, so, I'll have you start off here because I know you got some things to say.
Well, I'm not even going to go on the Harold Baines rant because that's just a freaking joke. Harold Baines in the Hall of Fame.
Next week we can just do a Hall of Fame show. That's what I'm thinking because we can go on the Hall. Everybody get inducted.
I mean, Gary Sheffield got tossed off this ballot, but Harold Baines is in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Give me a break.
Sammy Sosa doesn't even get any consideration. The dude's 60 home runs 3 times. See, the thing about it is that you got this is what I'm going to say. You got this stigma around it where, like, these guys get labeled Hall of Famers or not, and it's just like a status thing. Like, oh, Yadier Molina's a Hall of Famer, but when you look at Yadier Molina's numbers, he's kind of a borderline Hall of Famer.
No, you and me share a brain on Yadi because Yadi had a very short span there where he was labeled elite. And yes, behind the plate and his leadership and all that. But I'm looking on both ends, and he was never an elite hitter. Okay, he had he had a very short time span where he was hitting like 280 with like 15 or whatever, but that was like a 3-4 year span. Other than that, he's been a below average hitter behind the plate. Yeah,
and you get these stigmas around these guys. Oh, he's not a Hall of Famer. Oh, Larry Walker wasn't a Hall of Famer. Oh, Edgar Martinez, he wasn't a Hall of Famer because he didn't play in New York or whatever. And so these guys get the stigmas around him and they don't get in. I mean, Lou Whitaker is one of the top 20 second basemen of all time. He didn't even get but like 3 votes. I mean, that's one of the biggest, things in Detroit that we talk about that's criminal. But it's funny because then you get these veterans committees and it's like they're friends of the guys and they're voting guys who really actually don't deserve it in. And then now you got these, there's a 10 limit on a ballot. Now I'd vote for more than 10 guys on this ballot, honestly, because there's so many guys that deserve to get in. I mean, I don't know your stance on the whole steroids thing, but I think Barry Bonds and Clemens and Sosa should all be in no matter what. I mean,
Bonds and Clemens to me would be in. Sosa I wouldn't vote for.
Yeah, but see, I would vote for him if I could, but like you got to get. I think Edgar Martinez deserves a shot. I mean, if Lee Smith's in, why can't Billy Wagner be in? They're really comparable. Billy Wagner's better, so.
Here the number one guy that I've got a problem with, and just getting no support is Fred McGriff.
Yeah.
Fred McGriff in the 90s was the premier power hitter in that Dynasty Braves lineup. I mean, the guy hit just short of 500. So if he hit 7 more home runs, he would have been in already. But why? Because he hit 493, and then after he retired, a bunch of guys popped steroids and were hitting 60 a year and diminished what 500 home runs is. Now we just forget how great Fred McGriff was? Like, give me a break.
Yeah, I mean, you can't tell me that Harold Baines is better than Fred McGriff. I mean, Harold Baines played the outfield and McGriff played first. That's the only thing he has over him was, like, defensively, he played a more valuable position. But McGriff was just so much better of a hitter.
I'm looking at the ballot here, okay? We hit on Billy Wagner. We talked about Sosa. I brought up Sheffield. Okay? There's a lot of love for Larry Walker. To me, I'm fine if he don't get in. He's right on the he's on the border for me. I don't think Larry Walker in Hall of Fame. There's other people that do have at it.
Yeah, that stigma that gets around these guys, though, is what I'm saying. Like, Larry Walker, you think not Hall of Fame. If you dive into the numbers, he's a borderline candidate.
Yeah, no. I'm saying he's right. He's on he's on the cusp. Okay. Yeah. Mariano Rivera, we don't need to have a conversation about. Okay, I've been banging the drum for Curt Schilling to get in. I don't know what else you want from that guy.
It's just the political aspect of it. But I pretty much disagree. I think he's a fool, is what I'll say. I think he's a fool with what he says. I think he should get in.
Right. Though. Somebody gave Placido Polanco a freaking vote, and Michael Young. They should get their things just taken away.
Like, yeah, I could see them in the Hall very good. Like, I could see
the Hall of Nice Guys, maybe, but stop.
Yeah, Torrey Hunter, Placido.
Here's the thing, okay?
Very good Hall.
There are 3 guys on this list, all of which that will get votes, one of which will be on the cusp of getting in. That is Mike Mussina, Andy Pettitte, and to a lesser extent, Roy Oswalt. To me, none of them should be in.
I think Mussina should be in. Pettitte's a little more of a... I don't think he was as good as any of those other guys.
I've been having the argument about Mussina ever since he got on the ballot. He is a very, 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 very good pitcher. He's not a Hall of Fame pitcher.
Yeah, I just guess we're going to have to agree to disagree. I think once you put Jack Morris in, too, see, this is the thing about it. Once you put Jack
Morris was... Here's the thing. Jack Morris is the opposite of Mussina. Jack Morris had a so-so regular season, but was lights out postseason. Mike Mussina had 20-win seasons in the regular season, was garbage in the postseason.
Mm-hmm. See, the postseason should. I think the postseason's like one of those things where it's like it doesn't hurt you if you answer it wrong on a test. Like, what if you're Mike Trout and you've only been to one postseason?
No. Here's how I view the postseason. The postseason can elevate your resume.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But if you are a guy, if you're a Mike Mussina, okay, and Mike Mussina didn't have one trip to the postseason, he had several trips to the postseason.
Yeah,
okay,
you're right.
And you're viewed as, okay, in the era, one of the top pitchers in the AL, okay, at the time, then yeah, I need to see something in the... You can't just be garbage. Like, I'm sorry. Right, if Clayton Kershaw was more Mike Mussina than godlike that he is, we'd be having a similar conversation about Clayton Kershaw. Because his postseason doesn't do him any good. And guess what? He's got better postseason numbers than Mike Mussina.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, Mike Mussina, he's not like the slam dunk guy like Curt Schilling, but I would vote for him.
Okay,
Oswalt had like a short prime. That's the thing. But we're seeing guys with those short primes get a little bit of support.
Here are the guys that I want votes for. Scott Rowland needs to get voted for.
Yeah.
Okay, he was the best third baseman in baseball for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
Like, don't forget that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Jeff Kent is the best hitting second baseman of all time. I don't care that he's an ass. Okay?
Yeah.
And Andrew Jones, does anybody forget what he was doing in center field?
Yeah, it's a little bit odd that Omar Vizquel gets all this support, but Andrew Jones doesn't, because I think they're pretty equivalent on a level. The thing is that Vizquel's career probably lasted 5-7 years longer. Vizquel's like another guy who's like a very good guy. Like, he was really good, but I don't think he quite deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, but shouldn't take away. Like, sometimes we get this thing in our head, well, if they're not Hall of Fame, they just suck. But, like, Omar Vizquel is a really solid, above-average, all-star, some seasons player in his career, but he's probably not a Hall of Famer. But, like, Andrew Jones really, like, he had power, and he was equivalent defensively, and he was way better offensively, especially in his prime. Like, he fell off at the end of his career, and he didn't have as long as a career as Vizquel, but I don't think you should be punished for that. But I think people just kind of are punished for career length, especially.
And here's the last guy that I'm going to make mention of here, and we'll wrap it up. And like you said, next week, assuming I have the date right, well, this will basically be a Hall of Fame show. Assuming nobody.
Harper Machado.
Yeah, assuming something doesn't, an A-bomb doesn't drop. But listen, we talked on the first show about Roy Halladay. and I have no qualms in you telling me he's a Hall of Famer. I'm on the line as far as whether he is or isn't.
He's going to get in this year, though, isn't he?
That's my point. We can't let emotion cloud this, okay? And his passing is still fresh in everybody's mind. Like, the idea that he's right now, you know, as far as the ballots that have been revealed, he's over 90%. Like, come on.
Yeah, well, the thing about him is that I think he's a Hall of Famer just because the aspect of it where he did a lot of things a lot of pitchers didn't do. He threw a no-hitter in the postseason. He won a Cy Young in both leagues. He was the best pitcher from 2003 to 2012-ish, 2011. So for the better part of a decade, he was the top guy. Like, if you average it all out, like, you know, you had Lincecum.
No, again, I don't have a problem with him being in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. But the fact that he's like this clear-cut choice, when...
Yeah, well...
I mean, come on. We're wasting votes on other guys. Placido Polanco got a vote.
Yeah, that was... I mean, Polanco doesn't deserve a vote. I love Polanco, too. He's just a very good player, but not Hall of Famer by any stretch of the imagination. But it's just like... I don't know. Just with Holiday, I just think he deserves to be in. And it's like, for me, it's just a clear-cut thing. Like, you're either in or you're out. It doesn't... Like, I don't understand why some guys have to wait till the 10th ballot. Like, what has Edgar Martinez done between now and 2009 where all of a sudden he deserves all these writers more support? He always deserves the writers' support. I don't understand. Like, yeah, I understand that with the ballot limit, sometimes you have to lead him off the ballot, but it's not the swing of, like, where he only got, like, 20-30% his first few years, and now he's literally going to borderline get in. Like, I just don't understand which one of these writers changes their mind from year to year, and they're like, yeah, now Edgar Martinez is a Hall of Famer.
Harold Baines got it. Now Edgar's got to get in.
Right away. Yeah. So, like, that's the problem. Like, if I were a writer, I'd know Ray Halladay was a Hall of Famer, and I'd just get him in. If you got it in the first ballot, he got in on the first ballot. Like, see, people worry about, like, the status part of it, like, first ballot Hall of Famer, but, I mean, to me, you're just either a Hall of Famer or you're not. You should get in on the first ballot or not get in. Like, I don't understand if it's roughly the same crowd voting every year, other than the reason of, the ballot limitations of only 10 people, so you have to sometimes leave people off. But you shouldn't be changing that drastically over 10 years. It's just it's a funny human thing that we do. It'd be a cool thing to study, like, behavioral wise, because it's like all of a sudden people are like, man, Edgar Martinez really was this good hitter. It's like, well, you couldn't realize that 10 years ago. So, I mean, what happened? He hasn't played in the last 10 years. There's nothing he did that like, what has he done in the last 10 years that all of a sudden you're like, he is a Hall of Famer. And I know the big argument is he's a DH against him, but Poppy's going to get on his first ballot, so I don't know. But yeah, all big reaction next week you'll be a lot more emotional, I bet.
Oh, I'm sure. By the way, okay, and I get that he got popped for steroids a couple of times, but even before the Manny Ramirez was one of the best hitters I ever saw.
For real. He's like Roy Halladay. He's like he was just one of the best guys overall.
All right. So anyway, the announcement is on
Monday, right?
Yeah, Monday, the 20. I think I just had it. The 21st or 21st or whatever.
Is it on? Because that's a holiday too.
Now, hold on. Let me go back. I literally just had it in front of me. The results will be announced on the 22nd, so a week from today. So it'll be on Tuesday.
Yeah. It's MLK Day next week.
Yeah, MLK Day is on Monday, so they'll do it on Tuesday. So maybe, maybe we'll do the show live with the announcements.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, I'm home at 3 on Tuesday, so.
I was gonna say maybe we can react along. With whatever monstrosity they're gonna throw at us. But all right. That's it for this week. Okay, obviously the big news here coming out of the show is that the Phillies apparently have a big 3 idea, and that they're going for Harper, Kimbrel, and Keuchel, while the Mets are rolling out Juan Lagares and Keon Broxton. So,
interesting idea.
I would say spring training hasn't started, and it's already looking good for me. All right, but until next week, again, that's a pitch out. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Dan Siegel. That's Nik Jarvinen. What?
I said I'm Nick. I was saying it. Sorry.
No, you're good. Whatever. I'll say one of these days I'm going to get the intro in here. One of these days it'll happen.
Okay.
Yeah, work in progress. Anyway, until next week, we'll see you guys then.
Have a good week.